Happy Tuesday. Welcome to the Scoop World Order. Big presser today. Had the coordinators, had Ryan Day getting ready for Iowa. Their fantastic running game, tough defense. I think we're going to spread them out and shred them. But this will be a nice step up from every game we've played thus far as we springboard over this next 2 weeks. It's the sprint. Ryan's going to call out all the shots. So we're going to break down what that means. We're going to do a 5-star flip coming home to roost. Who could it be? A name we're very familiar with, a name that would be an excellent gadget inside of this Chip Kelly offense. And I think he's crazy if he doesn't come here. But again, that's just me. And I'm right about a lot of stuff. But I would not send my son to the Florida Gators under any circumstance at this point. So we're going to get into all that. But first, if you guys enjoy this content, enjoy our film breakdowns, we'll do a little bit more film breaking down tonight. Just let us know in the comments, type Scoop had it first, type a Y. Type anything, because again, those comments really add up. We appreciate that. That triggers the algorithm, helps these videos go huge. So thank you for that. If you want to do something extra special for us, again, I've been saying it every night. You guys have been responding because you can see the numbers are growing. Go on your iPhone, your iPad, or any other phone device you have. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, click subscribe. You can subscribe on both absolutely free. Again, we're trying to grow those platforms. You guys are helping us out big time because frankly, they're lagging way behind our YouTube. Our YouTube is growing wicked fast, and we're trying to get our other mediums to catch up to it. So again, that's completely free. It takes 5 seconds to do. Something that can really help us out, help grow the Scoop family, and it really helps us out a ton. So we appreciate you guys for doing that. Again, if you guys enjoy this content, please leave us a like, click subscribe, also click that little alert bell. Shout out. I want to hear in the comments, what are your plans for the Iowa game? You go to the game, watch it on TV. Do you go to your favorite watering hole? I'd love to hear what you guys are going to do. If you guys are near Twin Peaks in Columbus or Youngstown, Dayton, head out there. B-dubs all across the nation. They're huge sponsors of us, both of them. And so, again, take care of our sponsors. They're excellent partners for us, and we appreciate both of them so very much. That being said, going to get into it a little bit with my man, Nevadabuck. Nevada, we got a potential 5-star flip. We got all the coaches up at the podium. Where would you like to start tonight?
Let's talk about the 5-star flip. Just something we'd kind of alluded to last night. We had kind of teased it on the show, as it were. As always, we're breaking stuff today on BuckeyeScoop.com. If you're not a member of BuckeyeScoop.com and you like this podcast, man, you are only getting about 1/50th of the total Buckeye Scoop experience. So head over to BuckeyeScoop.com and join the premium membership. If you like the podcast, it's just like the podcast, just the other 23 hours a day. But on the message board today, we talked about a player that had, a player that was long rumored to be a heavy Ohio State lean, maybe even a silent commitment. And then, the NIL monster, and he committed to Florida. And we're talking none other than Vernell Brown. So you guys may remember the name Vernell Brown, 5-star wide receiver, South Florida Express kid, and currently a Florida commit. What we're hearing is that there are conversations ongoing between him, his family, and Ohio State, mainly on the strength of the J.J. Smith phenomenon. J.J. Is kind of one of these stories of college football in 2024. Possibly the greatest wide receiver to ever play at Ohio State, and certainly a guy that's getting a lot of national love, national recognition. And Vernell's sitting there committed to a program, Florida, where they're not even sure who their next head coach is going to be, but it's just an absolute dumpster fire. And, Vernell's an explosive kind of inside guy, slot receiver type, different kind of guy than a J.J. Smith, who's just a pure Marmaduke. He'd be a terrific complementary piece. He'd be a terrific guy that could come in. You never say never. You're not sure if something like this is going to happen. But what I can say with 100% certainty is that they are listening, because while the NIL deal at Florida that's on the table to them is better than the one from Ohio State, when they're adding up the money, how much money is J.J. Smith going to make in the NFL? That's the question. And if your answer was hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars, then you're right. You go to the head of the class. And when you've got hundreds of millions of dollars potentially at stake, if you're in the right development situation, then a little bit of leaving a little bit of money on the table now up front probably makes sense. And that's what Ohio State's selling to him. That's what he's listening to. And this is one definitely to keep an eye on because Vernell Brown and the Ohio State relationship goes way back. It makes an awful lot of sense for him to come to Ohio State. And I'd say this one's very much in play.
Yeah, I think I wouldn't send my kid to Florida, especially if he's a wide receiver in a billion years. I just think that it would be so tough to commit to a program that's in the toilet, and you have no idea who the coach is going to be. I'm sure that they'll try to go get some whiz-bang hot name like they've done the last few times. But, I mean, really, since Urban left, man, they've been a dumpster fire. World Muschamp, I thought Dan Mullins could maybe get him back because he was trying to be Urban 2.0, but he fell on his face. They go out and get the flavor of the week. He's about to get fired. I mean, he could get fired any week now. Or they lose another big one. It's like, I don't know how you keep Billy Napier because it's, a lot of these ADs, they want to basically just put a bullet in the head of the season and get ahead of the coaching posse and getting to the back channels and interviewing the hot names. I don't even know who they'd be considering, but I don't know. Like if my kid was a 5-star wide receiver, there's just no way I wouldn't send him to Brian Hartline. And again, I know that you might make a couple $100,000 extra to go to Florida, but at the end of the day, it's like, I mean, come on, what are we talking about? Like, I mean, Justin Jefferson's gonna, $35 million a year or whatever he makes, and Jamar Chase wants probably $40 million a year. So, and if you put a gun to my head and I ran the Cleveland Browns and you said, Kirk, you could sign any wide receiver in the world right now to the Cleveland Browns at any age, I'd sign JJ over Justin Jefferson, Devontae Adams, Jamar Chase, any of those guys. I'd take JJ. Now, JJ is only 18, so obviously you have that 5-year extra run or the extra 3 years where he's going to be productive in college. But, like, I'm not taking any receiver in the NFL for potential and career and length of everything over Jeremiah Smith right now. And again, I love wide receiver play in the league. I love Justin Jefferson. I love, you guys hear me talk about him all the time. But JJ is that kind of guy. And, it would be foolish to take a couple $100,000 sounds like a lot of money, but when you're talking tens of millions of dollars in money that you can make as a high draft pick, like Marvin Harrison. Marvin Harrison's a perfect example of a kid that, he came in here when there was no NIL, and his first sophomore year, he really wasn't a big NIL guy. His junior year, he's a huge NIL guy, but he was just focused on his craft and playing well. And then when it came time for year 3, then all of a sudden he was, commercials and national spokesperson and car deal and all that. So I just think that if you come to Columbus and you ball out, the world is your oyster. I mean, Will Howard has a big Fiesel roofing commercial. Fiesel, they've been a partner of ours for a long time. JJ Smith has been growing substantially year over year, game over game. And, there's things, and I don't always believe these evaluations, but, On3 said that Ryan Williams, the kid from Bama, the receiver, the 17-year-old, his evaluation, they said it went from $700,000 to $1.5 million in one weekend because he won against Georgia. And again, that's the thing about when you're at one of these big time programs, like when you have one of those crazy games and it's a big game, like, Ryan Williams having 170 yards versus Georgia, like all of a sudden every business in the state of Alabama and a lot of national brands all of a sudden are like, hey, let's get ahead of the posse. Because again, the thing that I would point to, if I was Ryan Day, Brian Hartline, Mark Fantoni, Chip Kelly, whoever, I'd be like, look, if you come here and you're good, you will play. And I'm talking about as a freshman, not talking about waiting around, not talking about redshirting. You'll play right away as a freshman. If you're that guy, and if you're really good, you have a chance to make a big impact. Who do these companies want to partner with the most? The freshmen. So if you're some supernova freshman like JJ Smith, those are the kind of guys that a lot of these local companies want to partner with because you get them for 3 years in an Ohio State uniform. Like if you're a JJ Smith, man, I mean, you can get every NIL deal in the state of Ohio right now because everybody wants to be a 3-year commitment or a 3-year relationship. Whereas like if you're Will Howard, he's got a really nice Fiesel roofing commercial. He's here for another 3 months, and then he's out. And then when he gets drafted by the Seattle Seahawks, like you don't really have any use for him anymore if you're Fiesel roofing. So, again, I would say that to these freshmen. And again, like, I'd say, look, if you're good enough, we're not scared to make you the number one option in our offense. Because, if you guys aren't paying attention, like JJ, the whole offense runs through JJ now. So I'm just, again, it would never in the history of mankind be easier to flip a kid who's committed to the Florida Gators, who is a teammate of JJ Smith's, and Jamie French and all those guys, like, and Ennis and Tate, and those guys all ran together. And those guys all, Brandon Ennis, Carnell Tate, and JJ, they love Ohio State. It's not a cow town. You know, you're not living on a farm. Like, these kids love Columbus once they get up here. It's a great city, and the culture is great. The coaching staff is incredibly stable. And again, that'd always be something I'd be, you know, kind of spooked about if I was a dad of a kid and I said, well, let's go commit to Florida. And then, you know, that whole coaching staff, they know that they're getting fired. They know that. So, you know, I don't know how in good conscience you could do that, especially since Verdell Brown's dad is an agent. He's an NFL certified agent. So again, if that's my kid and I'm trying to make, you know, the most of my 3% commission going forward, then guess what? He's going to play for Brian Hartline. He's not going to play for coach to be determined, TBT, you know, TBD. So, any thoughts on that, Nevada? I've got Verdell's tape running. It's a pretty long tape. It's a 14-minute long highlight tape, which is pretty good. Your thoughts?
Well, they have an NIL calculator thing where you can enter the names and it spits out how much the guys are worth. You know what I'm saying, like that. And so you can do that for, you know, JJ Smith. And so I did it for DJ Ugalugala and for Donovan Edwards, and it came up with $1.47 for both of those guys, and that was for the two of them. So, you know, NIL works both ways. I mean, like, you have a big game, they should make those guys give the money back from that Prime Energy drink or whatever that thing is for sucking so bad this year. You know what I'm saying? That would be the only fair thing.
That wouldn't even get you a side of ranch at Twin Peaks. That might get you like a teaspoon of ranch, but not a full side of ranch. I'm sure $1.47. But yeah, well, I don't know. But
that's too much.
But you know what I'm talking. It's like, you know, you've dealt with, you know, I mean, you've had kids commit, get recruited, you know, your own kids, and it's like, you know that the fit, the coach, the culture, like, that's just as important as anything. Stability in a program. Like, to me, I'd like stability. Now, again, there's no guarantees in life in coaching. Again, you know, we always talk, Charlie Weiss had like a 10-year extension. He got fired after 3 years. Jim Tressel got terminated after going 10-1 against Michigan. Like, you know, Urban, you know, I never guessed that Urban would have been gone after the 2018 season. So there's no guarantees in life. But Ryan seems pretty stable, especially now that he's got Chip Kelly there. You know, and if you're only trying to get there for 3 years, and I think it makes a lot of sense to commit to that. Because again, I just think that you look around, especially on the state of Florida, like, I think by far Miami's the most stable program. Like, Florida State is, they're in rough shape. And then the Gators they're dead. So I don't know, but like, what are your thoughts on that? Because again, I just think that in recruiting, a lot of these kids, they chase this fast cash, and then it's like you never hear from them again, and it's just so dumb. What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, Ohio State's selling the whole thing of, look, we'll be competitive on NIL, which is what the best thing that they can offer, and we'll develop you to your highest potential, and you'll get paid the bag when you go to the NFL. And that's absolutely the right strategy if you're Ohio State. And, you know, as you pointed out, why would you risk? I mean, the only losing move for some of these players is go to an unstable program. Go to a program where there's a coaching staff change, where there's a system change, where there's a regime change. Because uncertainty is what kills these guys. That's what happens to these guys. And that's why some of these five-star kids go to these places and then they're never heard from again. And, you know, for Ohio State, you know, especially at the wide receiver, I mean, of all positions, they develop all positions exceedingly well. But for wide receivers, I mean, it's a machine right now. It's a money machine right now. Come to Ohio State, play in Ryan Day's system, be coached by Brian Hartline, do the right things, go in the first round, become a centimillionaire. It's a very straightforward thing. And like you said, Verdell Brown's dad is a NFL certified agent. He understands that. He understands the game, and that's why they're listening.
Yeah, and like, dude, if you're getting, you know, 3%, like, don't you want your kid to make, you know, be a first round pick? And I mean, Marvin got $30 million, you know, so you get 3% of that. That's a good payday, as opposed to being, you know, a Florida Gator undrafted guy. Now they had a guy go first round this year, the kid from Ricky Pearsall, the kid that got shot about a month ago. But again, that's pretty. It seems like it's pretty rare. I mean, they and the thing is. You know, they have guys that go first round, like Kadarius Toney went first round, but he's been just one of the biggest busts of all time, just a complete disaster. He's on the Browns practice squad. He's only been in the league for, I think, 3 or 4 years, but it's, you know, what do they do when they get to the league? Because you look at the guys that Ohio State's put in the league. I mean, you got Jackson Smith and Jigba had 12 targets last night, and Marvin's obviously killing folks, and Garrett was rookie of the year. I mean, you've got all these guys that are they're very productive when they get to the league. Olave's the number one guy in New Orleans now, so I don't know. I would look at not only how well do they play in college, how high do they get drafted, but how well do they do in the league. Nobody touches Ohio State at this point. Nevada, there was a lot said today. The little press conference deal. Ryan Day, got up and he's doing we got to pull out all the stops to beat Iowa, which is good. I mean, you got to get the guys, you got to get everybody focused on Iowa. And, I think that they're very one-dimensional. Obviously, they're a running team. Very, very good running game. Very, very good running back. Jim Knowles and Chip Kelly are two of the better press conference interviews for coordinators. Chip Kelly just hates the media. It's hilarious because he's so much smarter than everybody in that room. So he'll sit in there and pontificate, and it just goes right over a lot of their heads. But I think that when you deal with some of the stuff he talks about, again, he always drops knowledge when he speaks, and he talks about how they manage watching the game and who watches what and the coordination. And again, I think that Chip Kelly has been very beneficial because of the fact that he left UCLA and that Deshaun Foster did not retain a lot of guys that Chip Kelly liked, like Tim Drevno, like Billy Fessler. And those are guys that, frankly, he trusts and he can get good reads from, and they can do a lot of development on top of, obviously, Justin Fry. I mean, it's pretty rare that a guy is an offensive coordinator. He goes from being a head coach to an offensive coordinator, and he can bring both of his most recent offensive line coaches. So, again, I don't think it's an accident that the offensive line is playing better. They're getting better. They're making strides. And Jim Knowles was his normal, spicy, grumpy self. Bad Santa was up there. And again, I love Jim Knowles. I love his thought process about he wants us to dominate. That's not the silver bullet standard. I think that's good. So again, I'm all for everything Jim Knowles is selling. Talked a little bit about guys like Caden Curry freelancing sometimes, and he had the comment of the day is when they asked him about him freelancing, and he's like, well, as long as you get there and make the play, I'm good with that, which I thought was kind of different. I don't know if I would have expected that, but again, I don't know. There's always a fine line in defense between freelancing and not making the play. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. Because again, I know that when JT was freelancing and trying to go inside and lost contain a couple times, he got the hook. But what were your thoughts from today? Because again, I thought it was a good round of media. Again, those guys get out there and they do it. It's like Marshawn Lynch; they don't get fined. But I thought it was a solid day. And again, I think that the team is in ripper shape heading into Oregon. What are your thoughts?
Well, look, this is going to be a nice challenge. We've talked about kind of this series, of games being kind of a build, almost like climbing a mountain, and this is a game against a team that's got a really good running attack. And Iowa will have had they had a bye week last week, so Ohio State's aware that Iowa's going to change a lot of things in 2 weeks. I'm sure that they'll come out and they'll do their usual thing with the play action passing, and they're going to confound us for a little bit. So it's going to be it's going to take some adjustment. But having Tyleek back on the defensive line in a game like this, really important. Trying to get ahead of these guys. Ohio State knows the importance of a fast start, but I'm just glad that this game's in Columbus, because I think if the game was in Iowa City, it could be a little tricky. Especially heading up to Oregon next week. You'd worry about a little bit of a trap, a little bit of an overlook. But this game's in Columbus, like that a lot. Think that'll get the guys' juices flowing. And defensively, they're being challenged, physically to stop the run this week. And, a lot of emphasis being put on that. And, I think that's why they were working some of those three linebacker looks last week and the last couple of weeks, is because they want to be in a position to, roll that out against Iowa, who's going to feature a run heavy attack. And so you move out of your 4-2-5, you maybe bring in one more heavy, and you see what you can do. But no, it's going to be a nice challenge for Ohio State. And I think Ohio State feels it that way. Look, the highlight of the press conference to me today was they were asking Chip what the difference was between being on the sideline and being up in the booth. He said, well, I can go to the bathroom up in the booth, because I can't leave the sideline to go to the bathroom, but I can do it between series up in the booth. And I thought that was pretty funny. Those classic Chip Kelly, but he's clearly in his comfort zone right now. And I've heard that from so many people close to him, close to the program, that this is the first time maybe in 10 years, 10, 15 years, that he's completely at peace, that he's doing exactly what he wants to do. And he's not having to do any of the stuff that he doesn't want to do. And he's refound his love for football. And I think it's obvious the way he's coaching. You can see it in his demeanor. And, certainly the way that the OSU offense is operating right now, it's operating at an extremely high level. But that I give all the credit in the world to Chip Kelly, because he's a master, and having him up in the booth is a total blessing, and I'm here for every minute of it.
Well, I think it is funny because like when you're up in the booth, it is nice. Like I like being in the booth way more than the sideline because you got, the bathroom thing is funny, but I used to always go up there super early, because you get into the stadium like 2 hours before the game starts. So I mean, you'd get, I would usually at the team meal back in the old days, like we didn't have a buffet; they just serve you like a plate. It'd be like a chicken breast, a steak, and a slice of lasagna. And I'd always give it to the players. I could give it to Reed Fragel or Jack or Norwell or any of those guys because, if they wanted more food, I just gave them my food. And then I'd run up there and I'd set all my stuff up in the press box and I'd grab, they always had like city barbecue or something. I'd eat some of that and, sit in there and poke my head in, talk to the athletic director, talk to whatever boosters were in town, talk to those guys for a little bit. Then I'd head down to the field because like we had, when you're like a GA, like, I mean, you don't really have a lot of pregame responsibility. Like you're not, it's not like being a player, you gotta, get your ankles taped, you gotta get dressed, you gotta make sure you're getting your mind right. When you're a GA, man, it's like it takes maybe 2 minutes to throw on your khakis and your polo. And then I'd always walk upstairs and get all my stuff set up, get my little area set up, little notebook and pens and that type of thing. And then just kind of chill for a little bit, then head down to the field, get ready for warm-ups. And I was always on the other side of the field. Like when the team would be warming up, I'd be on the other side of the field scouting the opponent. They'd be down warming up, and if you're in the horseshoe, in the closed end of the horseshoe, and I'd sit there and see like if there were any adjustments in the starting lineup, if there were any guys that were surprised, scratches because they were hurt. I'd go through kind of the whole litany of things and check out what their pass rush moves looked like when they did a one-on-one pass rush. I'd go through. They only run base defense and base plays, so it's not going to be anything. You're not going to get anything crazy from it. It's more just to see if everyone's dressed or not. Then I'd head in and check with the kids, let them know what the moves were that they did in one-on-one pass rush. Go through kind of the final reminders, and then I'd head up to the booth. But yeah, it is nice being up there. I'm sure Chip's probably like loving it because you could just see the game. It's so much easier to see the game. Obviously they've got iPads up there, but in real time they've got the TVs. They've got the TVs in the booth. Like, so they've got a big TV on the wall that's got ESPN on, or CBS or Fox or whatever is carrying the game. So you always get an extra look at it because the people that run our replay board at the Horseshoe, like they should be fine. I mean, it's the worst I've ever seen because we never get good replays. We never get good camera angles. So they're never helpful to the coaching staff. I used to always complain about that because I'm like, look, they should let a football guy run the replay booth because then all of a sudden, when Ryan Day's wondering if we should challenge something, a spot, a catch, did he bobble it? Did he trap it? Whatever. Like we never get like a good replay on the big screen because I would be up there. I'd be like, oh, damn, he trapped that. He didn't catch that. I'd put that right on the screen so Ryan Day could see it and the coaches because they got that big Jumbotron and they'll just show like some stupid graphic instead of like helping the coaches out. But when you're in the booth and you got ESPN up there, you can like at least see or whatever the TV channel is. You can at least get a second look at it and decide if we need a challenge or how close the ball should be, if it's a bad spot. There's a million things that you can pick up on that. So I don't know. I think getting Chip up there is huge. And like I said, I can't talk highly enough about the fact that he has Justin Fry, who he has, symmetry with because they work together at UCLA, Tim Drevno, Billy Fessler. I mean, he's got 3 UCLA guys on his staff. And I think that that's absolutely incredible, along with obviously Ryan Day, who he taught offense to, like literally from day one. So I don't know. I love all of it. I love that Chip decided to go up in the box because again, I think that's the proper move. Like, I love having both coordinators up in the box. I think that that's as good as we've ever done, in my opinion. Do you have any thoughts on that, Nevada? Because I just think that that's the proper way to run it, especially when you've got Ryan down there, who's basically like a third coordinator, as the head coach, a guy that's called the offense for the last however many years, 5 years. What are your thoughts?
Well, I always thought it was weird that Michigan the last 3 years has had both their coordinators on the sideline, and I was just like, why are their coordinators on the sideline? Like both coordinators on the sideline, and it's like, wow, what could possibly be the reason to have both coordinators on the sideline? And then it came to me. It came to me when you pointed it out. You're like, Nevada. It's because that way they can talk to Stallions. Or I'm like, oh yeah, that's what it was. That's why they're on the. I mean, coordinators in the booth it's so overpowered, man. And I tell you, when it started raining on Saturday night, and Chip Kelly's up there. He's up there eating nachos up there in the warm booth. He's like, oh man, I'm sure glad that I'm up here. I can see all this stuff and leave Ryan down there in the rain and do his things. But no, Michigan's had both. They had both their coordinators on the sideline, so they could cheat during that time. But Ohio State has Knowles and Chip Kelly up in the booth, and what a huge advantage for Ohio State to have, because at the end of the day, coaching, in my opinion, based on what I've seen at every level, but certainly at the college football level, better coaching is almost determinative of success over long term, not short term, not every individual game or individual play or individual series, but over a long term. If your coaching is better than their coaching, you're going to win. And I just don't know of a better triumvirate of Knowles, Kelly, and Day. It's really hard to come up with one, and especially with Kelly and Knowles up in the booth, it's almost unfair.
No, I agree. I mean, he's my favorite Kelly since Kelly Kapowski, so it's pretty good stuff.
I like Kelly Kapowski. Yeah, that was good.
Strong.
Tiffany in her day, man. That was about as good as it gets right there.
Tiffany Amber Thiessen, Scoop Strong. Scoop Smoke Show is what we call it.
That was Nevada. That was Nevada's type right there. But I think that was everybody's type.
Mr. Belden, Mr. Nevadabuck.
Mr. Nevada.
I got a couple quick things to say. Our girl Andy Joe, this Saturday is going to be at Fenders in Westerville. Nice venue. Went out and saw her last time. Scoop crew roll out Saturday 8:30 to 12:30 this Saturday. Fenders in Westerville, Fenders. So you guys stop out there, see our girl and her great family. Appreciate you, Andy Joe, as always. Scoop Strong, our girl, is going to be singing off and on for about 4 hours. So that'll be cool. The game will be over about 7, so you guys can watch our post show and then head out and check out our girl. Hope she kills it like she always does. And also our girl Beth, happy birthday, the wife of Karis. We appreciate both of you guys being on here each and every night. You guys are the absolute best. All right, Nevada, let's break it down. We got a bunch of super chats flowing in, so let's get right to them. Larry Daniels, 1, thank you for the 5. Totally impressed. Thanks for an ultra result. Totally impressed with your all 22 breakdown. Amazing to watch the combo to second level blocks. It's starting to look like a roadmap to the Natty, Nevada OH. Well, I thank you, and I also thank Nevada and the rest of the crew that were a conglomerate that runs Buckeye Scoop, because I told them, I was like, look, I want to invest in being able to do this stuff. Like, I think that it'd be compelling, and I think people like it. And I think that, I've got a unique skill set. Like, I sound like the guy from Taken, like Liam Neeson, but I literally, like I said, I'm the only guy that's played and coached. Like, I was a player at Ohio State, I coached at Ohio State, I learned a lot of football, and I love to study football. So I learned tons of stuff that I think that I can break down and make simple. And again, that was something that, again, I love listening to Chip Kelly talk, because he talks about how, there's, people ask, well, do you scheme teams up? And do you do this and all this wizardry and all this guru-ness? And Chip Kelly's like, well, we do stuff, but we have to make it very simple so the kids get it. It's very simple. And that's not a reflection of the kids or the intellect or anything, but people can say all kinds of crazy stuff or draw all kinds of craziness up on a whiteboard, or, have these 75-word explanations for a play or a blocking technique or whatever. But when you can, like, really filter it down to make it very simple so that, anybody can, like, someone that has never played football, doesn't really know about football, never coached football, and they can understand it, that is when you're onto something. And again, that's what I try to do. Again, I don't try to pontificate and say, wow, look how smart Kirk is. I'm like, no, this is just something real simple that you guys can learn. And again, when you guys are at your house parties or wherever you're at, you can say, hey, I watched the Buckeye Scoop and I know why they did that. Again, that's all I want. Like, I don't want it to be some, ooh, wow, look at the wizard. It's like, no, that's just dumb. And again, in the words of Urban Meyer, who's one of my favorite quotes of all time, he said, there are no gurus, And he's always, and one of the greatest thing that I ever learned from Urban Meyer, one of his favorite phrases, is there's no such thing as dumb players, just dumb coaches. And he said that to us about every single day for an entire year. And again, I was like, and I love that because I was like, you're right. I mean, because I had coaches in the league that were mad scientists and geniuses. And I'm like, just make it like easy. Make it so anybody can understand it so that guys can, because at the end of the day, you want guys to all be ready to roll and be able to play fast. You don't want them to be paralyzed because they're trying to remember if it's left foot, right foot, second step, right hand, left hand. It's like, you don't want that. You just want the kids to be able to play as fast as humanly possible and play well. And I think that's what our team's doing. That's what they pride themselves on everything being simple. And it's not because the kids don't have the intellect to do more. It's just because you don't want these kids to be paralyzed thinking, because I've seen thinking kill more players and their careers than anything in the world. When kids can't process information because coaches are stupid and they make stuff too hard, then that's on the coaches, and they should be shot and they should load into a cannon and shot into the sun, in my opinion. Nevada, Larry Daniels, again, thank you for being off from everything. Thanks for the 5. Says totally impressed with your all 22 breakdowns. Amazing to watch the combo to second level blocks. It's starting to look like a roadmap to the Natty. What are your thoughts, Nevada?
Well, I think on the combination blocks, I know it's something that's been a bone of contention, but I think a lot of that was due to the fact that the point of attack was just getting clogged with so many bodies in the previous years, and both offensive and defensive bodies, because we were so predictable to the hole. Now, I think our unpredictability, we get the defense moving laterally, and guys can do those combination blocks. And when when we talk about combination blocks, we're talking about, like, say there's a double team where the tackle and the guard are blocking a guy, and then the guard pushes off on the guy and then moves on up and attacks the linebacker. It's when it's working, it's just a symphony where guys are getting up there, getting into the next level of defensive guys, because obviously the defense is trying to tie up those offensive linemen and let those linebackers flow and make those tackles, and the offensive line. So it's kind of the game inside the game. But I just think that a scheme where you've got the defense just running around trying to find the ball just makes it so much easier for everything from a blocking standpoint for the offensive line, because they have space to operate. And I think they're doing a really good job of doing it this year. And that's why I think we're number 1 in the country in explosive plays. And, it's virtually the same guys from last year, but they just look way better. And I wish I could have said that I predicted that before the season, but I did predict that before the season. I said it would be like magic. And you know what? It's been just like magic. But hey, we have another tougher test this week. We got Iowa. So just got to continue to get better, continue to improve, because Iowa will be a nice test for us, and I think the guys will be ready.
Yeah, and magically our receivers block now. It's almost like Chip Kelly told Brian Hartline to make these guys start blocking, as opposed to last year where they don't want to get their nails dirty. They don't want to dent their Louis Vuitton bags last year, and now it's like these guys get after it. And again, that's Chip Kelly, because Chip Kelly doesn't care. You think Chip Kelly cares? He doesn't care about hurting Brian Hartline's feelings when you put that stuff out there. And again, I like Brian. I think he's good, but he let those guys get away with it last year. And I'm just like, these guys have got to go get in the way. Like, I watched Santoni. I mean, I watched Daryl Hazel, and I used to watch Brian kill guys. Rabisky would kill guys. Gonzo. Santonio Holmes, like my favorite. If it's not my favorite play of all time, it's in my top 5. It's when we ran the Z around left to Ted Ginn versus Notre Dame. The one that everyone remembers, Doug Daddish looked like he was running in slow motion, and Teddy got it and took the big loop around. And we ran our option play that we ran 1,000 times that year. That was our most prolific running play, 8 load. We ran 8 load, Z around left was the name of the play. And Santonio Holmes cracked their nickel so hard I thought the guy was dead. And Santonio said all kinds of expletive-filled phrases as soon as he nailed. But it was like Santonio killed, and that was his last game. That was his last game ever as an Ohio State Buckeye. He was going to the league after this. So he didn't mail it in. He didn't sit out the game. I mean, he literally killed this guy. I mean, it would have been targeting and ejection, probably prison and shipped to a Siberian work camp in modern college football. But in that day, that was one of the most clean decletions. Beheaded the guy basically, and it was amazing. And again, that's just kind of the stuff we're used to. It's like guys like Santonio and Brian, and that's why it was so ironic that like we didn't block last year and Brian's the guy. But again, I think that there's a culture sometimes where guys are they're saving themselves and they're scared of getting hurt, and they're making business decisions where they don't want to block, which is cute and all, but I really don't care about their NFL careers. I want those guys to block so that guys like Trey Henderson can run for more than 20 yards on a carry, because our safeties are ready to tee off on them in the hole like they were last year. And again, that it all runs downhill. Like the crap runs downhill. So all of a sudden, when the rushing yardage stinks, and then everyone says Trey Henderson stinks, and the offensive line stinks. And again, the offensive line wasn't great. It's gotten much better this year because of Chip Kelly's scheme. But we're also blocking on the perimeter, so we're getting these explosives. So like it's not some sudden miracle that like all of a sudden Quinshon Judkins and Trey are busting all these 60-yard runs, 70-yard runs. We're running these tunnel screens to Emeka for 70 yards. Like, I mean, come on. Like that's not an accident. It's because Chip Kelly got up in some hind ends, and all of a sudden these guys are starting to block a little bit, which is great. It's great. And honestly, it's good for business. It's good for us. D Sunday, thanks for the 5. You guys have talked about JJ's route tree. Besides quickness, what limits a wide receiver's route tree? That's a great question. I mean, the quarterback. I mean, if the quarterback can't make certain throws, you can't really run the route. But I think it's the agility, the quickness. How well does he release? How well can he hit his top ends? And again, I'm not gonna just throw a bunch of stuff out there, but like there's some guys that they really are limited in what they can do, and there's some guys that they've got the agility. And again, route running, it's like shooting free throws. Like it's just a lot of repetitions. It's a lot of learning how to become more efficient, which again, no one was more efficient than Brian Hartline. Like when he played here, Brian, he gets the knock, and he's a possession guy because he's a white guy or whatever. But like Brian could fly. Brian was a track guy, won the gold in the hurdles. I mean, Brian could like flat out run, but he was a really good technical route runner too, because again, he wanted to be the best. So he's really prideful. And Santonio's the same way. Santonio, Gonzo, running option routes or just shred guys. It's really just a technique thing, and that's why, you got to have a great wide receiver coach. And I think Brian's a fantastic wide receivers coach because, he knows all the little nuanced tricks to get a little bit more efficient on a route, a little bit quicker out of your break. But I think that some of it is height, speed, agility, quickness, because like that's why you don't put giant guys in the slot, because they generally don't have the short area quickness that a shorter guy has, a smaller guy. That's why you don't put Michael Jenkins in the slot. You don't put some of the big. You don't really put you don't put JJ in the slot. Put a guy like Emeka in there. Put Innes in there, because that's their skill set. They've got that short area quickness where they can break off an option route and shred a nickel. And again, like I don't. And it's not that JJ's not blistering fast, but does he have the same short area quickness of an Emeka? No. So again, it kind of depends on the body type too, if that makes sense. It's kind of like, just think about it like in the NBA. Like what guys have the best crossovers? It's usually the little guys. It's usually Iverson or Steph Curry. It's not usually, Karl Anthony Towns or, Joel Embiid with some killer crossover. It's always like the little short guys that have more short area quickness. They have smaller levers, smaller legs, arms, so they can shake guys more. This is kind of this. You got to think of that as when you're thinking wide receivers. Like, you get those little slot guys that are Wes Welker, Edelman, those types of guys, Randall Cobb. Those guys shred people in short areas. So again, that's they make their money running option routes more so than the 9 route, which is the fly and that type of thing. So Nevada, your thoughts. Again, I know you might be able to add something to this. D Sunday, thanks for the 5. It says, you guys talked about JJ's route tree. Besides quickness, what limits a receiver's route tree?
Well, I mean, you touched on the efficiency, and that goes, to just technique, and that's why, all these guys are freaky athletes, and some of them are, JJ's obviously the freaky but they're all great athletes. And what sets the guys apart is who are the hardest worker, who are the guys that really study their craft, that can, figure out how to transition, which foot to push off. It's like a golfer where you're trying to transfer your weight and move it over to the other side. And, same thing with technical route runners, the guys that are the great ones, the Jerry Rices, the Randy Mosses, the J.J. Smiths, the Jamar Chase, the Justin Jefferson. Again, great athleticism, but then you combined it with like this relentless work ethic where you're studying the habits of defensive backs, where you're studying, the best way to get in and out of cuts. That's the whole key to, that's what separates these guys apart. And that's why JJ, you had flagged it early with JJ, where JJ is a absolute tireless beast in the weight room, in the film room, first guy on the field, last guy to leave the field, guy that's in there late at night, catching, balls, whenever he can. That's why he's great. It's not just because he can run so fast or he's 6'4" or his catch radius is this or he's got hands like it. It's because he just works so darn hard. And that's why he was such a sure bet for us to hype, because I'm always preaching. And if anybody's listened to me over the years, they know that I'm almost like, hey, let's cool down the jets on this because, expectation, really can be, lead to a lot of disappointment. But with JJ, man, there was no holding back. We were all in on JJ because he's like I said, it's not just his physical ability; it's the physical ability combined with the work ethic, and that's what you're seeing, every day.
Yeah, I actually just texted that to Chris Carter, so we'll see what he comes back with. He's at, I think he's at practice right now with FAU, or they're probably just getting off the field. But I'll see if he comes back with something. Because he'll have a better answer than that. But I just think a lot of it is just your physical traits. Like that's why Randy Moss was an outside guy, perfect guy to go deep, again, because he ran a 4.2. Like, again, if you want to talk about living in the route tree, like if you want to do the top, that top, take the top off the defense. Like if you don't run a 4.3, that's not going to happen in the NFL. I mean, you could be the greatest dude in the world, but if you're running a 4.5, 4.6, like you're not going to beat a guy deep very often, not in the league. And again, like the short area quickness is the thing. When you talk slot, you talk that short area quickness. It's I mean that's something that you don't see a lot of giant guys as slot receivers. Those guys usually turn into tight ends, but. That's just a great question, D Sunny. D Sunny, thanks for the 5. Thanks again. Shout out to B Dubs at Easton. That is a beautiful B Dubs. I'm there almost every Sunday for 1 p.m. games. Great crowd and great staff for anyone that wants to get out of the house. Yeah, I'm a big fan of getting out of the house and watching some of the games. Like I've got Sunday Ticket. I love Sunday Ticket, but I like to sometimes just get out, get some fresh air. B Dubs and Twin Peaks do great jobs. I mean, they've got great wings, burgers, cold beer, great iced tea. They brew their tea, which is great. I love it. So I'm not everybody does it. Some people shoot it out of the gun, and that is the grossest tea in the world. But when you get that good brewed tea, I'm a big fan. Nevada, any thoughts? Again, thanks for the 5. D Sunday says shout out B-Dubs at Easton. I'm there almost every Sunday for 1 p.m. games. Great crowd and great staff for anyone that wants to get out of the house. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, it is fun because you find yourself you hunker down for those early morning games or whatever it is, and you don't want to just sit there for the next 8-10 hours and just do that. It is nice to be around and commune around other people, and nothing's better than going to a B-Dubs, get a little smash burger, get out there. Unless it's that other thing that you mentioned, that like patty melt smash kind of bacon thing or something like that. That sounded really good. I gotta get into that. But I do like that bacon cheese smash. And I do like hanging around people. I'm a man of the people. I like hanging around people.
I'm a man of the people. The best thing about you being a man of the people is nobody knows what you look like. So they're just like,
I know. That guy, that's the bet.
You go to B-Dubs and everyone's like, I wonder if that guy's Nevadabuck. I wonder if that guy's Nevadabuck. Yeah, exactly. Could that be Nevadabuck?
You never know. You never know.
It's like Captain Morgan. Like you get a little bit of Nevadabuck in you. Everybody's got the mystery of the Nevada man. Sean at Rollins, thank you for being an Ultra member. Thank you for being a great mod. Shout out to our mods. You guys are all in here tonight. Appreciate you guys. And girl for the Kimmy. Andy Joe will be at Fenders this Saturday in Westerville at 8:30. Show up, peeps. Show up. It'll be a good time. Again, Andy Joe does a great job her folks will be there. So you'll see Tommy, you'll see Sarah. The crew will be in the building. So again, you guys get out and go. I will be working away during our post-game show, which will probably go off about 7-ish. Game's a 3:30 kick. So I'll try to slide over there a little bit later. So but again, Saturdays, I mean, obviously for us, this is the busy season for Nevada and I, so it's a work day. So we'll see how it goes. But again, I went last time she was at Fenders. It was fantastic. So you guys get out and support our home girl. Again, we appreciate you guys. As always, Scoop family, roll deep to go see our girl, Andy Joe. Bourbon and Buckeyes, thank you for the 10. Nevada, would Connor have a notice of allegations copy? Would it be the same scum got as a university? If so, anyone interested in donating used vacuums, GoFundMe for $25,000. Netflix proves he can be bought. Haha, Nevada OH. What are your thoughts on that, Nevada? Do you think Connor has a notice of allegations copy? I'm sure he doesn't, but what are your thoughts?
It's a great question because I don't know how, because he's a potential person who they're bringing sanctions against. So I would assume that his lawyers are asking for that, but I'm not sure if he has it or not. I'm telling you, I am not surprised by much, but I am shocked that NOA has not leaked yet. And I mean, it is truly remarkable in the year 2024 where there's instantaneous transmission of information and iPhones and all sorts of things that has not gotten out there in the public domain. But, again, I don't want to be the old guy that repeats himself, but it tells you how bad it is because Michigan has let this thing hang out there this whole time. And, and this will eventually come out when they respond to the NOA, unless there's a settlement, unless they respond to the NOA, which is, I think, the 25th of November or sometime around there. It's all going to come out, and it's going to provide us with hours of enjoyment, countless podcasts to kind of go through all these things. But I would think that he does have one, but he might not. The fact that it hasn't leaked leads me to believe that the distribution may not have been as wide as I thought it might have been.
Yeah, it's interesting. You think he would at least get something that would notify him? It might not notify him of all the allegations, but at least his portion of the allegations. So
exactly.
Yeah. Lisa Shear, thank you for the 5. I hope you're doing good, my friend. Thank you for being on here every night. Hey guys, I was Kalen Johnson talking smack on the Buckeyes. I personally love it. Your thoughts, Nevada OH? All right, Nevada, you go first because I'm going to look up his quote and read it because I've not heard what he said.
I think he basically, I'm paraphrasing, but it was basically like he's a Ohio kid, and he's like, even if they offered, I wasn't going to go. I wouldn't want to go to Ohio State. I want to beat Ohio State, or something to that effect. On the 1 to 10 of bulletin board material, it's probably a 2, but it's better than nothing. I mean, anything that they can do to kind of fire up our guys, I'm all about it. So I didn't think it was too bad. It's kind of a typical type of thing. But if you're Iowa, you probably don't want to be saying anything because you don't want to do anything to poke the bear at this point in time. But he's certainly going to be fired up for this game, and I'm sure that Knowles and company are going to make a point of that to the Ohio State defense that this guy's coming to run it right down their throat.
All right, the quote was, not really, because I really don't care about the offers and stuff like that, but I'm entering with a chip on my shoulder no matter what because it's Ohio State. I want to beat them. So I feel like even if they offered me, I wouldn't have went because I feel like I want to beat them. That's my goal. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life, and it makes no sense. He's from Hamilton, Ohio, which is Cincinnati. I think that's where Brandon Underwood and EJ Elmer Underwood were from. And, the thing about Ohio State, you have to understand, this is the world of Ohio State football. There are so many kids that grow up dreaming of being Buckeyes from the state. And their families are fans of Ohio State. Their relatives are fans of Ohio State. Their teachers are fans of Ohio State. Their girlfriends are fans of Ohio State. Their girlfriends' parents are. That's just how it is. And then it gets time to be recruited. And all of a sudden you go through the rigmarole. You might go to some camps. You might do whatever, blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden, you don't get offered. And then, so there's always this swath of kids every year that ends up going to Michigan State or Minnesota or Iowa or Northwestern or Illinois or Penn State or whatever. Kids that would have cut off both their whatevers to go and get an OSU offer, but they don't get it. So now they have to do this. They have to turn this bitterness and this energy into some sort of fuel, because now like the big bad wolf is coming to town and they got to come see the Buckeyes. So, I mean, I get where the kid is. Like if I wouldn't have been offered by Ohio State, I'd probably hate Ohio State. I'm sure I would have. I mean, that's just being realistic. It's like you grow up dreaming of a school wanting to play there, and if they shun you, then all of a sudden your goal is to wallop them. Now again, you might not have the infantry and the artillery to get it done, but that's just, it is what it is. But this happens every year. There's always kids they dream of being Buckeyes, and all of a sudden they got to throw all their Buckeye gear away, and their parents got to throw it all away, and they got to go buy Iowa gear or Minnesota gear, or it's happened with Antoine Winfield, happened with Luke Lachey. I don't think Luke Lachey hates Ohio State, but he might. I would, especially when his dad's the color commentator, one of the greatest players in school history. So, and Luke's been a fantastic tight end at Iowa, and he'll be a draft pick and have a great NFL career, I'm sure. So, but I don't know, like I don't mind it, because again, there is bitterness there when you don't get offered, especially when he's playing well. He's doing good at Iowa, and so I'm sure that he feels like he should have been offered. And there's always kids that get through the cracks, because that's just how it is. Like this isn't the Woody Hayes era. We had guys like Le'Veon Bell. We didn't take Le'Veon Bell. We didn't take Luke Kuechly. I mean, Luke Kuechly is a first ballot Hall of Famer. So I mean, there's been guys that have been like all world. Mitchell Trubisky was the second pick in the draft. Didn't take him. So you're going to miss on some guys, and they're going to go elsewhere, and probably potentially have success, and it's kind of is what it is. That's part of the gig, because you can't take them all. You only have 25 scholarships a year, maybe 30 if they up the cap to 120. But I don't, in the parade of trash talk, I don't know if that's whatever. I think it's more just bitterness, and he's off to a hot start, so. Our job is to smother him and bring him back to earth, which I think we'll do. Nevada, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, no, I think that's I mean, like I said, I don't think it was great trash talk. Probably the type of. I mean, I think the quarterback said something also about how they have no pressure on them. I mean, just like I said, it's just. I mean, hey, they're kind of stating the obvious. They're coming into this game. They want to beat Ohio State. And but saying it and doing it are two completely different things, and doing it in Columbus is another complete thing. But look, Iowa's good enough that if you're not ready, if Ohio State's not ready to play, it could be it could be a battle, because Iowa's good, well coached. They know what they're going to do, and they know their scheme, and they execute it really well. So Ohio State's got to bring it, and but I'm confident they will.
Yeah, and I don't like the cliche well coach, but like Kirk Ferentz really does a good job. And I know that people kill that guy, but I mean, he does an excellent job with what he has and the amount of talent that dude has and how good he's been. And I mean, and how long he's been there. It's crazy. Cause those guys, they always play hard. They always maximize their players. I've always respected Iowa. They smashed us in 2004. Oh my God. My first career start, we played out at Iowa, and it's like, I'd always joked, like, every little kid always dreams of starting for the Buckeyes one day. And it's like, this is my dream. We get to go to Iowa City and play the Hawkeyes. They beat us 31-7, like beat us to death that day. I was like, oh my God, there goes my first career start. Then the next year we played them in 2005. We smashed them, and then we went back there in 2006 and smashed them again. So we got a little bit better, but that was humbling. And again, that's why I always laugh when people are miserable during a season like this. I'm like, well, it's kind of like one of those things where I'll give you something to be miserable about. I'll make you go back and watch. I'll make you go back and watch the 2004 season. Oh my God. We were so bad. It was terrible. D Sunny, thanks for the 5. Oh, you ask the best questions, D Sunny, I swear. Talking about coaches on the sidelines, what did you think of Brady Hoke not using a headset when he was at Michigan? I literally thought that was the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life. And I would have fired him. If I was the AD, I would have fired him immediately. Because how are you supposed to communicate with your coordinators, especially if you have anybody up in the booth, without a headset? You know, why? Because you're just trying to be like macho. You're trying to show your machismo, to show how stupid you are. Because again, like I've been on the headset with Trussell. I've been on the headset with Urban, and the amount of communication that goes back and forth is incredible. And it's constant communication. It's clicking. You know, the head coach has a clicker where he can click over from the offensive side to the defensive side, and you know, constantly, you know, hey, you know, Tom, you know, Urban will say, hey, Tom, you know, I told the defense that we might go for it here. So get a good fourth down call ready. If it's 4th and 3, we're going for it. Yeah. So he'll click over and tell Luke, hey, Luke, you know, get the defense jazzed up. Because if we don't get it, you guys are on the field on the 45-yard line, whatever. You know, so to not be able to do that type of communication and over communicate and make sure that guys are ready. Because again, if you don't have a headset on, like you're just gonna have a bunch of guys that are surprised because they don't know what you're thinking. They don't know how you're feeling. They don't know how you're, you know, hey, did we get that fixed? Hey, did we get that adjustment? And plus, like the coach he's another set of eyeballs down on the field, and he might see something that you don't see on offense or defense, you know, and he might need a communicator. He might need to talk to the special teams coordinator. I don't know. But again, to not have a headset on the sideline, it's the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life, literally. And again, it's just, there's so much communication, and it's just, you got to be just ruthlessly efficient when you're on the sideline, because you've only got the kids for 5 or 6 minutes before they're back out on the field, and you got to get things fixed to just maybe 10 minutes if there's a TV timeout. So you got to be really wicked efficient at getting all that stuff communicated. And like to not have a headset, again, they're stupid. But you could never convince me that that's the right move, you know. Especially like if you want to know what's going on. I mean, this is 10 years ago. This is pre-iPads. Obviously, the iPads came out this year. Like you have no idea what you're getting from formations to coverages to deep. I mean, it's just like that's like I said, the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Nevada, your thoughts? See Sunday again. Thank you for the 5. He says, talk about coaches on the sidelines. What did you think of Brady Hoke not using a headset when at Michigan? What are your thoughts?
Well, it was clear that, you know, look, there's sometimes, you know, like people like to go against the grain, and they like, hey, you know, everybody else is punting on 4th and 1, but I'm going to go for it on 4th and 1, or, you know, the whole go for 2 when you're down 8 or 7 or whatever, you know, that kind of stuff. But Brady Hoke was just trying too hard, man. Like there's no reason not to have a headset on as a head coach. There is not. It was just dumb. Brady was trying to be different, trying to be the smartest guy in the room. And I'm not saying that's the reason he got fired or was unsuccessful, but it was probably stuff like that because he was remarkably unsuccessful. But that was a remarkably stupid decision on his part.
Well, it would be like if Ryan Day said, you know, we're not going to use iPads and we're not going to use helmet communication this year. We're just going to keep it the way it's been. And, you know, it worked for us last year, so we're not going to get progressive. We're not going to use technology. We're just going to do it the old-fashioned way. And I mean, that would be impossibly stupid, you know, because again, like there's a reason why every coach ever, you know, since headsets were invented, has worn a headset. It's because you need to be able to communicate with especially the head coach. I mean, the head coach needs to be talking to the offensive and defensive coaches, coordinator, nonstop. You know, I mean, even like when I was picking plays in game, like Urban wanted to know, because again, when I missed the one time, I got eviscerated by Urban, and again, I was fine with it because I was like, I missed the signal, so you know, I made sure I didn't miss anymore. But it was just one of those things where he wanted to know if I was right or not. So I'd say what was coming, and when it showed up, then I looked pretty good. You know, so if he didn't have a headset on, I don't know how he'd ever know like that we had the signs. Late Night Laughs, thank you for the 5. Thank you for being all true. Remember, just got my tickets for the Iowa game. Where is the best place to tailgate? Whew. I mean, I would just go walk up to one of those really nice tents around the stadium and just start eating hot dogs and grab some of their beers if I was you. But that's just my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I mean, you go to Heinegate. The Skull Session is always fun to watch the band play when the team shows up. You know, the team walks about 2 hours before the game. So if you're near the rotunda about 2 hours before kickoff, you'll see the team walk in. So that's always cool to see. Skull Session's about 2 hours before kickoff, so it'd be like 1:30. So I'd check that out. But otherwise, they've got all kinds of food stuff over by St. John, you know, if you don't know anybody. But if I was you, I'd get on BuckeyeScoop.com, because we always have people having tailgates. They invite all of the members and whoever wants to show up. And, I don't usually tailgate. I usually go into the stadium and start watching the warm ups and getting some work on the game thread done and whatever. But I don't know. Nevada, late night laughs again. Thank you. I think this might be your first super chat. I don't think I've seen this name before. Thank you for an ultra member. Thank you for the 5. He says, I just got my tickets for the Iowa game. Where's the best place to tailgate? What are your thoughts, Nevada?
Yeah, I would just commune with some other fellow Buckeye Scoop members. With Jay Hatt, we've got some other guys that have kind of epic tailgates. Put something on the board. I'd hook up with them. Save yourself a lot of trouble. Because people have got their spots and they've got their routine and they've got the whole thing down. And we have some great Buckeye tailgates going from Buckeye Scoop members. So that's what I would personally do. I'd put out a post, start a thread, say, hey, where's your tailgate going to be? I want to stop by. And you'll get many invitations.
Yeah, I mean, everyone always wants me to come to tailgates. Like I like going. I walk right into the game, and then usually I get out of there quick so I can go get home and get ready for the post show. But if you're a member of BuckeyeScoop.com, we have a ton of members that have tailgates. So I'd hit those guys up because they'd love to see you wear your Scoop gear, and maybe they'll give you a free beer. All right, Nevada, that's my favorite. Let's wrap this thing. Any final thoughts to wrap the show up?
No, just a fun week. Keep an eye on Vernell Brown. Ohio State really, challenging the physicality of the team this year. Both are just this week, both on the ground offensively and on the ground defensively. This is kind of every game. There's certain games that are kind of like a test of manhood, and I think Ohio State's throwing down that gauntlet this week with the guys. Good physical matchup against Iowa on Saturday. And they're putting it at them, so it's going to be a fun one. Can't wait.
Yeah, I think anytime there's a game where there's a big time running game threat, it is kind of the old manhood test because it really comes down to guys staying in their gaps, guys filling in the run. Guys, and again, this is why they held Tyleek for a game like this because you need. I'm just telling you, Tyleek is the total difference maker on this defense because he's so hard to block, especially when he's fresh, he's not tired. And we don't have guys that are like that can replace him. I mean, Taiwan, again, Jim Knowles, when they asked about Hero and all these other guys, he had nice things to say about Taiwan, but he didn't say anything nice about Hero, and some of the other guys that were rotating in. So, but none of those guys are Tyleek. I mean, Tyleek is a game wrecker. Again, he's 340 pounds and he can run. He's explosive and twitchy and he's kind of everything you need in that 3 technique. And he's a guy that can destroy a zone running game because the thing that can destroy a zone running game is penetration. And Tyleek's got to get upfield. He's got to wreck that guard, not get, set into orbit by, the double team blocks. And Tyleek's a load. Again, that's one of those things where, everybody wants to be an Ohio State Buckeye and be a football player. And I was like, well, go one-on-one and try to run block Tyleek and then to come back and give me a call and let me know how much you want to be an Ohio State Buckeye. Because, again, it is not for the faint of heart. All right, let's wrap this show. Appreciate you guys. As always, thank you guys for having another great show, another huge audience. We appreciate you guys. I hope that you guys had a great night, as always. If you guys enjoy this content, please leave us a like, click subscribe. Also, click that little alert bell. If you're going to do something amazing to help us out. Get on Apple Podcasts, get on your iPhone, and just search Buckeye Scoop. You'll see us. We pop right up. We've got one show. Click subscribe. It really helps us a ton. You can do that on Spotify, YouTube. They're all completely free. You can subscribe to all 3 of them, and it's a huge help to us. So, again, we appreciate you guys helping us out. That is completely free, and it's something that, like I said, if you love this show, you want to help us. That's the biggest way you can help us right now because we're really trying to grow this format. So, again, I just appreciate all of you guys being on here every night. Again, another happy birthday to Beth. Again, another plug for Andy Joe. Andy Joe, Fenders, 6:30 to 11:30 in Westerville. It's real easy to find. It's right by Polaris Mall, probably about 5 minutes from the mall. So look it up. Head out there, wear your Scoop gear, and root on our girl Andy Joe. Her folks will be there. Great folks. Make sure you say hello to them. They're in the chat every night. So, but again, I just appreciate you guys so much. Thank you so much, Buckeye Nation. And thank you, Scoop family. We will talk to you guys tomorrow. I hope you guys have a great rest of your night. Go Bucks.